Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. You have Drive Safe Dave here along with Buckle Up Bob, and we are excited about doing some good stuff today when it comes to safety, bringing you the message. But you know what, Bob? You came in all a little jumpy, a little excited.
Yes.
And I thought, you know what? He's got his his Cardinals shirt on. I thought, I got to hear another story about the Cardinals, but it is not. What is so exciting about today?
It is about the Cardinals. They won 12 in a row, Dave, but no, that is not what I'm excited about. I am a huge fan of the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ryder Cup starts today, so USA, USA, right?
Yeah, so it starts today, and when was the last time that we haven't won in a while? Us against them, us against the world. So when was the last time we won in the Ryder Cup?
2016.
We need to wake up, guys.
Yes.
We need to get out there. We need to support our team. We need to make it happen. Hey, it's a big deal. You know, we sweep in the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
We go out there and win the Olympics. Let's get out there and let's win the Ryder Cup, man, for the home team.
That's right. We even won the Olympics this year.
Yeah, we did win the Olympics.
We had the first place there as well. So,
and
yes,
I think we pulled that off at the last day. I think the last day. I think we were behind, and then we creeped up. But you know what? I like that comeback from behind finish.
Win is win.
Win is win. But let's get out early.
Yes.
In the Ryder Cup
we
today.
Typically do not. We usually, whenever we win the Ryder Cup, and from my memory, it's on the last day when they do the individual matches and we're down 2 points and we got to make it up.
We got to make, and it's hard to make up.
Yes, it is.
It is hard to make. So let's get out early. Let's not swing too many times today. Let's swing.
Right.
I think the goal is to swing less. So,
that is correct.
So we want to swing less, just better.
Have you ever swung less?
Oh yeah, I have swung less, and you know what? It's still can't find that ball.
Yeah. I know. Drive Safe Dave has swung less because he usually quits after 12 and says, "I'm done."
I'm done. I can't. You know what? I've reached my max. We were the last time we did it. I think I went to 14, and I was just so hot.
Yes.
I got overheated, overcooked, and I think it was 100 and something outside, and I was like, "You guys are good. I'm out. I'm out. I'm done." Yeah. I'll tell you what. So here we are. Moving on from the Ryder Cup. Did you hear anything about Virginia? Did you hear what was going on in Virginia last week?
I know they were doing a individual state trooper blitz, and they were focused on the secondary highways as well.
Yeah, so from what I understand, they had over 208 inspections that they did, not only on the 95 corridor, but they did them on the side highways. They did them in a lot of places where they didn't. They went out there and tried to find guys that run those secondary highways, and they were located, they did over 300, they did 208 inspections. They found over 300 violations, and they placed like 30 trucks out of service. So definitely going out, definitely trying to make a difference, definitely trying to find what needs to be taken care of. I mean, they should be addressed. They need to be seen, and if there's something wrong with the vehicle, it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, you know, oddly enough, I came in behind a truck this morning on the interstate, and it had no tail lights, rear lights. I couldn't see it at first. Then when I passed it, and I got around it, it was missing a headlight and everything else. I'm like, where are you guys now?
Well, no, we don't want that. Right?
No, we do not.
All that does is makes it very difficult. And sometimes you've got to watch when you turn corners and you do stuff and you hit your blinkers, make sure those side blinkers are working, because if the pigtail gets loose, you can't really see that, and it happens. So you've got to be really careful and mindful of what's going on with that pigtail. And you know, at night, you want to be seen. You want to make sure that those lights are on, and you want to make sure that trailer, they can see you hit the brakes. Mm-hmm. How dangerous is that back there if you can't see, and it's just a wall of darkness, and you're running, and there's no lights back there.
You know, I think you bring up a great point, too, and I'll use your experience, because I've never really driven a truck, but I know when I've talked to drivers, a lot of that light stuff is the pigtail. I'd say the majority, when they have a light issue, other than a headlamp, it is a pigtail issue, and so I think you're right. You got to put some focus on your pigtail.
Yeah, you want to make sure. Yeah, you got to make sure your pigtail is clean. It's always in good shape. You take care of it. You clean it out. You check it every now and then, and you make sure that it's not hung up, it's not frayed, it's not damaged. They can get damaged in the turns and out there on the catwalk, but just check that stuff. And every now and then, I always, you know, after you do it a long time, always kept an extra one in the side box. I always had one around. As an owner-operator, just kept one thrown in there. But you know what? It is important that you check it, you know, and when you do your pre-trip, you have a pretty good indication of how good your pigtail is. Just take a look at it as you connect it up, and those points of connections, they'll get frayed, they'll get used. Like everything else, they wear out. There's a good rule of thumb is if you can, after a while, after some extended use, flip your pigtail around so that the part you put in and plug in all the time is fresh and clean and new, right? And it's not as worn as the one that you do all the time. So you flip it and it'll be just as good. So it works either way. So
kind of like rotating your tires.
Kind of like rotating your tires. Rotate your pigtail.
Rotate your pigtail. I love it. I love it. That's a great slogan.
So as we talk about safety, I saw that in the FMCSA meeting, in the congressional hearings that they were having to appoint Joshi, the new FMCA lead head of the FMCSA. There was a couple of things that I caught from that interview, from what she said. And my favorite line she said she is committed to reducing death and injury on the roads, as it has gone up since 2016 dramatically. And she said that my favorite line she said was, regulators, not truckers, have been asleep at the wheel in regards to safety out there on the highway. And she said a big focus of hers was making sure that any violation towards the license, like a drug or a positive test, was a better communication between the states and the clearinghouse, and making sure that those people aren't behind the wheel.
I think that's a great point. We always talk about root cause, right? You need to get to the beginning of the problem, not after the driver's on the road. And so I do think it needs to be stricter background checks, that reporting in the clearinghouse, and then companies, clear guidelines on, hey, you just can't, any company that's reputable wouldn't hire that kind of person.
Yeah, you don't want anybody out there, and it's more than just that. If your license has been downgraded for whatever reason, or you had enough violations, or something's wrong in your license, there should be no reason you're out there, right?
No.
And you should be notified as well, because there were a lot of things going on that nobody knew, right? Nobody knew, and there's been instances in being the safety guy, you've actually found out later, after the guy's on the road, you found out later that there's been a violation.
Yes. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I really like that comment too. And I like the fact that they're taking the ownership, not just looking to blame somebody. They're like, hey, we as legislators, but it has to be good legislation. Legislation to be legislation isn't good at all.
No, I agree, and I look at it, and I don't think she didn't mention anything in the article or whatever about changing any of the hours of service rules, which to me tended to be better for the drivers. Yes. She actually leaned on more of regulation and inspections, and getting out there and making sure that not only that the equipment is good, but also that the roads and the byways are important as well.
Yeah, and the rules, like I said, I agree with you. I think the rules are perfect right now because, when we find a violation, it's a choice. It has nothing to do with anything else but the driver choosing. And that's really something you can address, right? There's nothing driving it more, because they all have the flexibility with their hours if they'll just learn it. If they won't learn it, well, then that's on them, not anybody else.
And I'll tell you, we talk about that, and why it's so important is that it was reported that that drug testing is up.
Yes.
It's up across the board. I think from last year, it's up like 28%. 28%. And that's not, and it's not just one drug. It's not just marijuana. It's marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamines. It's everything. And in the same number of tests as it were last year to this year, drug use is up, or being number of positive tests are out there. And that information we want to get. Oh, of course, producer, you find a picture. Look, drugs are not.
Actually, when you don't know, that's from his counter table this morning. He took that, right, producer?
But drugs are. There's no room for them on the highway.
No,
there's no room for them behind the big wheel. There's no room at all of altering your state of mind and not being the best you can be out there on the road. And when you do test positive, that's what she's talking about, right? She's talking about getting that information directly to the person that's responsible for getting the driver behind the wheel.
Yes, and again, folks, drivers out there, got to remember, what's really hard on this is so many states are legalizing some of this stuff, and it's not legal in the motor carrier industry, okay? Just because a state allows it still isn't legal to be doing it and hold a CDL.
No, it's not. And look, the state may legalize, let's say, for instance, let's all be honest here, we're talking about marijuana, right?
Yes.
And let me just tell you, it is not federally legal, and therefore you cannot have it in your system, and it remains in your system for at least a month. And you've got to make sure that you understand that, hey, I wasn't high when I got behind the wheel. It doesn't matter. When your random testing comes out and you get test positive, that is a violation under the standards and the rules under the FMCSA, and you are not allowed to drive.
Right. And folks, CBD oil is showing up. So I mean, they're still doing all kinds of argument on this, but just stay away from it, because right now, man, again, we talk about preventability and fault. You know, they can't blame fault very easily, but it can be prevented just by not doing it. You just don't want that headache right now.
Yeah, and let's not just say marijuana. Let's say all drugs.
Yeah, all drugs.
I mean, even prescription, right? There's a problem with
Yes.
prescription drugs. I mean, you got to make sure that you let whoever it is you know, let your safety department know, let your HR department know that if you're under prescription drug medication, you inform them what that medication is so that they understand what it is, so that if you do get a random, and you do have a prescription for that drug, right? It is allowed by law, and if it doesn't impose a threat or a danger behind the wheel, then it's okay, right, Bob? I mean, that's the whole premise.
Yeah, and folks, if you're, nobody has to have a license to know what drugs are. Just some of the things that I've seen on the list, if it ends in ONE, you can't do it, right? I'm just going to tell you, very few drugs end in ONE.
Bone.
And that are allowed to be in your system.
Ice cream cone.
And even NE is starting to get up there, like tetracycline or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
We're not talking about antibiotics. We're not talking about that.
No.
But we are talking about drugs, and we got to be wary of that as we move forward. Hey, we got a great interview coming up. We'll be back in a few minutes, and we're going to bring the Sergeant Major on and ask him some tough questions.
Awesome.
We'll be right back. Good morning, everybody. We're back, and we actually have we have our security advisor, our expert on the world of security around the world, and we are going to go ahead and jump right in. Sergeant Major, are you there, and how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Drive safe day. Buckle up, Bob.
Hey, good morning, Sergeant.
Hey, really, what's been going on lately, we had the big UN Council, and the president spoke, and we've had a lot happening in the U.S. in targeting some of the information that they put out during the UN meeting. And I think a big part of the focus was our relationship with China and the concerns that the world has with our relationship with China. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. The biggest concern that people see is that there's no communication, I feel. And from the outside looking in. As an intelligence officer, we saw the same thing. Very dysfunctional relationship between the United States and China, unfortunately. It should be better. The two most powerful nations in the world. And one is probably more ambitious than the other. I mean, we can argue this forever. But until we cannot sit down and on the table and talk, speak, across the board, we won't be able to get anywhere, fortunately. It's there's no trust. There's a lack of trust between the United States and China, the governments. Chinese governments particularly are attacking us, cyber attacking us every single day, stealing our products, our ideas, or whatever, and making it their own. They've been doing this for years, and until they don't stop doing that and they don't have a real reason to sit down and talk with us, we can't trust them, and nothing's going to happen. It's not going to move forward, fortunately.
and as we look, and historically speaking, when we talk about Cold War, our firsthand experience of that in the United States is our relationship with Russia immediately following World War II, and how that Cold War that evolved, where we didn't actually openly have conflict, but our allies. It seems like everybody aligned to one side or the other, and the problems that it creates, I mean, you could sit here and go on, and you could sit here and say that indirectly or directly you had major conflicts around the world that weren't actually between the two, but were like, let's say Vietnam, let's say Korea, let's say over in Asia. We can say all of these things, but they're worried that these same things may happen. Correct?
Right. Yeah. China has been instigating a lot of the issues around the world for many years. I don't. Um, Cold War. Can it be with China? It's an interesting theory, and an interesting take on the whole relationship. How it was, how it is today is we have a lot of trade agreements. We have a lot of agreements not outside of trade as well. So for both of our countries' economies to thrive, we need to continue these relationships. So that's the only good thing that's coming out of it, and perhaps that will keep us from going into some type of Cold War. Although the Chinese spy organizations are now stepping out of their comfort zone. They're now going outside the country into different parts of the world where we are and other our allies to try to recruit individuals for information. This has been going on for some time. That's not something that they're used to. It's not something that that they do like we do. So if that continues, it'll be interesting how that will pan out.
And as we talk about it, and I'll know that your area of expertise is Central and South America, but are we seeing a big uptick in, I've always have growing up, having lived in Europe and whatever, the KGB or now the FSB, those are always big, those are always big call out numbers, so we know who they are. But have we seen a large uptick in that region that you work so well in? Have you seen a large rise in the number of, I would say, intelligence officers working from the Chinese environment?
For sure, they've been positioning themselves around the world for years and years. Now they're and one of the things they do is they become very good friends with countries that share the same methodology, the same ideology. Perhaps not so much in the same, like a communist country like Venezuela and Cuba, right? They're positioning themselves there, but also countries that share the same ideology, like Argentina, depending upon who's there. Like Kirchner's there. Before, when Macri was there, it wasn't so much, but before that was Kirchner again, and they've been putting spy satellites in certain different countries and in Latin America, particularly in South America. They say, obviously, that it's for their own purposes, for their space operations and whatnot. But we understand that it's for other nefarious purposes as well, and they're doing that all over. But Latin America serves as a best platform because they're closer to the United States. They're in this hemisphere, and they have a lot of. They've been instigating this type of behavior for so many years, and also the different countries in Latin America, how they've been forming their governments into a communist country, so then they can step in and do their own spy mechanisms in place. It's been going on for some time.
I hear you, but let's be honest, they're throwing big money around, right? In these countries that we're talking about, they're actually stepping in and they're tossing big cash around and to help out these, I would say, political systems that align closer to them is what you speak, but not necessarily that they are getting on the other side of the fence of the Democratic side of or the more what our economic system and our political system would be. But they're actually going in and recruiting by they're dumping large amounts of capital and cash into these environments as well, right?
That's correct, and they can't. Other countries can't compete with that because China makes it so much more reachable. They throw a lot of money, and they're always going to go with China because China has the most the best program for them. It is unfortunate; it's happening all over the place. Dominican Republic, unfortunately, Brazil. They're going back into Brazil, and the United States or other countries, Western countries can't compete with that.
And before we go, I think we got a question here, but I just want to ask: Are we still utilizing like the old concepts of the Monroe Doctrine in this environment in Central and South America to put our will against out in foreign powers? Do we still ever bring up the Monroe Doctrine at all in regards to this hemisphere?
That's a good question, but the easy answer is no. The easy answer is that they're not. It's not something that they're looking at. It's not something that they want to follow because the Monroe Doctrine is strict and it will not allow them to do more than two things that they want to do.
I understand. Hey, we got a question for you, Sergeant Major. Who do we got over there, sir?
Yeah, Brian Winsauer, what do you got for us, sir?
Good morning, Sergeant Major. Quick question. I believe it was CBS Sunday Morning. I believe it was CBS Sunday Morning recently did a story about a drastic transition in Cartagena about 10, 15 years ago. It was, if not one of the most dangerous places on planet Earth. And now within 10 to 15 years, they've changed it to a super safe tourist mecca. If that's true, how were they able to make such a drastic change in such a short period of time?
Short answer to that is the United States. The United States has been in Colombia for such a long time, putting in a lot. They've put a lot of time and effort and investment into the Colombian government, the country of Colombia as a whole, to try to fight, not only the drug problem but also the guerrilla problem, right? The FARC. Cartagena is now, as you said, some people call it what is it? It's just an area on this hemisphere that people want to go to, people want to travel to, and it's become a resort style place, kind of like, if you will, Dominican Republic or the south of France. But much cheaper. The rest of the country is some more volatile countries towards part of the country, like towards Venezuela, where the FARC still exists, but it's a small entity, and so the United States has had its hand in that whole process and how to get rid of the biggest issues in Colombia. And thanks to that, Cartagena today is a mecca, as you say.
As an intelligence officer, you go out and for business and or for government or whatever it is that you do. How important is it that you might? I guess my favorite part is how important it is that y'all look forward to the upcoming problems that are growing in here. Like, we see the UN and we talk about this in the news around the world, but I got a feeling y'all are well ahead of these news break stories.
Right. Thanks to our analysts who are constantly looking at the issues around the world, putting it together, and we work hand in hand with them to try to get a bigger picture. Right when we get our requirements and we go out to get those requirements, it's a happy moment for us that we have a bigger picture, that we have a picture of the problem and how we going to go out to get answers to those requirements. It's a beautiful moment, but at the same time, we understand that it's not a beautiful moment for the United States if we don't, because it's all about the national security. It's all about you all our families. And if we don't do our job in an equitable manner, then it's not going to work out.
Thank you. Hey, we got to have one more caller before we get out of here. Who do you got over there, producer?
Yeah, we got Alan Arnold here. What do you got for us, sir?
Yes, good morning, sir.
Morning.
I want to know how it's going to affect with Saudi Arabia and Nigeria and those OPEC countries making deals with Russia right now, and with China on the oil, since they're trying to get out of the dollar.
Yeah, our relationship with those countries will always thrive, whether they have distinct entities working with Russia or China. That's beyond the point. I think the main thing is that we will maintain our relationship with Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and other OPEC countries, so that because it's very strong. It's just they fear us more than they fear them, but they also understand that in order for their economy to thrive, they need to do business elsewhere as well. But they understand also that the business that they do is strict, is specific, and perhaps the United States may not allow I shouldn't say allow, because it's not their place to do so, but they may not agree for them to do other businesses that they're already doing with the United States, and it may interfere.
Well, Jorge, man, I appreciate you coming on. As always, you're a continuing guest here, and we appreciate not only your expertise, but your candor. And we look forward to the next time you come on. I appreciate you jumping in. Thank you so much for the knowledge and the experience. And thank you for being here on the safest station in the nation, and I appreciate it.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
All right. Thank you,
Appreciate
Sergeant Major. All right, and we're back, and guess what? Buckle up, Bob. Guess what time it is right now?
7:27.
Not that time. Look, we are at 129 days.
We are.
14 days of Get Out Luck. We've reached the 2-week mark. We're doing really good. We're entering into the weekend. We want to make sure we stay focused. We want to make sure that we're continuing to get out and look. We don't want to let down our guard.
No, and we've had a couple animal strikes this morning already. So, folks, watch the animals. No situational awareness. From midnight to 4 in the morning, it's dangerous. And all these happened during those times.
Yeah, one of them was pretty severe.
Yeah.
Even with that animal guard on the front, it
did a number.
Did a number on the guard and the truck. But seriously, let's control what we can control, right? And what we can control is making sure that we are out there protecting ourselves and doing what it takes and getting out and look. I like the fact that we're at 2 weeks. We've made it a half a month. I'd like to get through the whole month without a single backing accident. Yeah. And the only way we can do that is together. And we can do that by getting out and looking every time you back up. Put that vehicle in park, put your flashers on, walk back there and take a quick look at what's going on.
Yeah, take a good look.
All right, let's give away some cash. It is time for Cash Giveaway.
It is Friday, and first up, we've got Alan Hennessy. Alan Hennessy, do you know that phrase that pays, sir?
It's $200 today.
It is $200.
It's $200 today.
Alan,
what do you got, Alan?
If you are in a safe place, if your mic's not working for you, you can always type that out as well, Alan. So let me take a look at that, because it seems you do not have that microphone. So you should You can type that out as well, Alan. If you know that phrase that pays, you are more than welcome to do that. I will
Darn,
give
if
you
he
a
doesn't
bit
have
of
a
time.
microphone, I was waiting to hear a little bit of that Irish accent.
I was
this
too, and
morning.
I wanted to ask him, is he rooting for Europe or USA?
Oh, no.
I'm gonna-
With that
okay.
Irish accent.
I'll go out on a limb and say probably Europe, but you know what? That's fair, I think. And Alan, I'll give you a little bit more time here. I don't want to move on as I see that you did type out that you do not have a mic, so I want to give you a bit of time to be able to write that out. But yes, it
That
is
was a good
Friday.
choice. Yeah, because Irish, I think he's got to be a little bit on the Europe side.
I don't know.
Little
You never
Rory
know. From the home
McIlroy,
team,
Rooter.
is that what we're talking about here, the home team?
I think home team is kind of what you usually try and go for, right?
Not
Like
always. I don't know. I
Well, the
wouldn't say-
captain's Irish, if I'm not, I don't want to mess that up. It's either Scottish or Irish. I can't remember. I think Podrick's Irish.
Oh, he is.
And then Rory. So you got the captain and one of their stalwarts.
All right, let's say, hey, that's got to be strike one.
Yep.
That's got to
All
be
right.
strike one.
Fair enough. All
All right,
right,
let's
we
move
are
on to
moving
number
along, and Vincent Younger, do you know that phrase that pays,
Come on,
sir?
Vincent.
Younger, can you give us that phrase that pays? You should be able to unmute your mic, hop on, and give us that phrase that pays for $200 today. That is right. So, Vincent, you should be able to hop on and let us know if you know that phrase that pays.
All right. Hey, we are going to move through this pretty quickly. If he's not green by now, I've got a feeling he's not going to be able to be green. So let's go ahead. That's strike two.
Uh-oh.
All right, and third time's a charm, Richard Crable. Do you know that phrase that pays, sir?
All right. What's going on, Richard?
Got my faith in you here, Richard. Do you know that phrase that pays, Richard? Should be able to unmute your mic now. Oh, I see a typed out something. Oh, nope, Alan just typed out and said it's okay, Europe will win and make up for it. And that's Richard Crable, you should be able to unmute your mic now and let us know if you know that phrase that pays, sir.
All right. Hey, you know what? I'm the bad guy here, and I'm going to call it I'm going to call that as a strike three.
300 next.
300
morning.
next week. I'm going to call that a strike three. So the money goes up, the cash goes up, but the phrase that pays stays the same. Patience on the roadway makes for a safe day.
Yes.
Patience on the roadway makes for a safe day. Bob, what does patience on the roadway makes for a safe day mean to you?
Man, it's something I suffer from lack of, right? A lot of times.
Who
but
doesn't?
I've learned to be more patient. But yes, boy, and we're going to see some videos later today where patience is a huge part of that. But again, you just got to let crazy be crazy and realize, I think patience is more of an understanding that you're not losing or gaining what you think you are by hurrying up and tailgating or making the quick lane change, and just being patient and backing off and doing it when it's safe to do so. You're just never going to have an accident. You will always be able to prevent when you are patient versus worrying about fault.
All right, and with that, we'll be right back in just a few minutes with a little bit of traffic and weather.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Good morning. It is Buckle Up Bob, and it's time for a little bit of traffic. And we start with the Dallas area for those drivers that are in the DFW area. Man, it looks pretty nice for a Friday morning. I mean, you're always going to have some slowdowns at rush hour traffic, but it's not that solid red. There's just bits and parts of the Metroplex that have some slowdowns. But you can see the loops look really well, especially down to the south. Fort Worth over here looks terrific. The 820 loop, a little bit of a slowdown here on the eastern side, but all in all, really good for your commute around the DFW area. Kansas City, wow, hardly anything, just something downtown. So the whole loop looks great. Kansas City, you should not see any trouble. As you can see in the first two, no weather to worry about either. Everything looks sunny and great as we start there. Chicago, wow. Chicago looks great, right? It's always red downtown, but you're always looking to go around it. The loops look absolutely wide open for the most part. Just a very, Bolingbrook has just a little bit of a slowdown, but really other than that, Chicago looks great this morning. And we go to Atlanta. Wow, even Atlanta looks good. That is crazy too. The loop at Atlanta looks awesome. Just a little bit up here in the northern part of the loop, but you can see all the way around looks great. A little bit 20 on the heading east, the eastbound side. A little slow up coming into Atlanta, but before you get to the loops. And same thing coming from the east going westbound on 20 before you get to the loop. You'll have some slowdowns, but all in all, looks pretty good for the loop in Atlanta. Philadelphia, wow. Man, you're right, producer. This is great. Look at this. Again, Philadelphia looks outstanding as well for considering that it in Atlanta always sees a lot of red. But again, your 295 loop looks great. The 476 even looks good. Little slow down on 76 Turnpike, but everything else, 95, all that looks great coming in and around the Philadelphia area. And as we go to Nashville, Nashville looks a little bit more congested than normal, but the loops look outstanding. It's more downtown, and then here coming up from 24, coming up from the south, so northbound on 24, looks a little bit down here, right around the 31A and all that. But the loops, 440, 40 loops, 65, all look good in the Nashville area, and none of them have any weather to be speaking of. So speaking of weather, we will go right into it. And as you can see, there's just not a lot going on right now. Got some up in the Dakotas and Minnesota. Just a few little scattered showers here and there, but all in all, looks terrific. What we've got for the forecast, again, not much currently right now. As we go through the day, again, a little bit here in the southern tip of Florida, Southern California, and then Iowa, Wisconsin, as that current little system that's raining moves a little bit to the east, southeast. And then for our Saturday, again, not a whole lot. That system that was over here today just kind of drifts, and it actually weakens a little bit. There's not a lot of lightning symbols. So looks like we're going to get a really, really nice weekend. What about our wind gusts? Let's check. Today, not too bad. Low 30 mile potential gusts. Typically, these are 4 to 5 less than what they forecast. So, again, we're going to look in the mid to upper 20s for that north central part of the country from northern Kansas on up and into Chicago and across the Great Lakes area into Pennsylvania. Could see some mid-20s mile-an-hour gusts. And then tomorrow, wow, really nice. So, again, we shouldn't see any kind of weather issues. Hey, we want to give a quick update. I believe they've named him Sam. Is it Sam? Okay. I had it the other day, and so we want to look at that. There he is. So, again, what I looked at yesterday, this thing is supposed to really pop. And right now, they've got it missing. So, but they are looking in that category 3 to 4 thing on this. They said the conditions are going to be right. The good news is it's following the path. This has been a really busy hurricane season, but the good news is most of it is in the Atlantic side anyway, has not come ashore. It's followed a pattern just like this and hits up in Canada. So again, as we go through, I think even it gets there 152. So it starts to weaken as it goes north, but as it gets closer to Florida and that, it's going to really category 4 and 5. So we're looking at some very potential strong storm surges. It just depends as we watch how close it gets to the Florida and the southeastern coast there. But right now, not forecasted to come ashore, but we'll keep an eye on that for everybody as well. Hey, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with some safety.
Bob. Thanks, man. And looking at Sam, looks like it's going to be something going on in the.
It is.
And you know, there are a few small islands out there that it could affect dramatically. So, going to keep an eye on that as it progresses. I think it's still 1,500 miles southeast of us. So
Yeah.
it's
Still closer to Africa, but it is supposed to hit the Bermuda Triangle. So
still a long way away.
stay away from that Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, it's coming. All right, let's. What do you got going on in safety? I know we've been talking about preventability. So what do we got?
Yeah, and again, we've been talking a lot of why we have to focus on the preventability side versus fault, and it's because of these nuclear verdicts. And so, just to kind of make up for being out, some of the reasons that they've attributed to these nuclear verdicts is actually advertising. We've all seen the hammer, right? Well, I didn't realize this, but that was banned years ago, that you couldn't, litigation lawyers could not advertise for accidents. And in 1977, Congress allowed it to be back, and immediately from 1980 to 85, they saw a huge uptick in amount of verdicts and lawsuits and awards as well. And so a lot of them attribute it to advertising, and also all of a sudden, once the advertising came, there was they saw the awards increase by 90%, and then a $2.7 million award kind of opened the eyes to lawyers that, hey, we can get more than $500,000, right? We can get big money, and it just kind of steamrolled from there. Then outside funding, some investment bankers, shady financiers, they started treating the civil justice part of these cases as a speculative commodity where they can just get a piece of the pie. It's an investment. And so we've seen that in earlier, Louisiana's going through right now, where this thing involved doctors, lawyers, financiers, all kinds of people in the industry to come together and try to just get a big piece of that pie. And so, at the end, why focus on preventing accidents over who's at fault? Well, in 2019, in the first half of 2019, 640 motor carriers went out of business due to nuclear verdicts. That's a lot, when you stop thinking about it. And that was in 19. We're 2 years later. We've already gave the numbers of how they've increased to over the 20-some million dollar awards. And so this number is just going to continue to grow until legislation kind of equals out the playing field. And that has happened in Texas and Iowa. We kind of mentioned that. Texas passed a bill that went in Iowa to where right now lawyers can't use the reptile theory, right, to get their awards first. They've created these accidents to be considered a two-phase trial, just like a criminal law. You have to prove guilt first of the accident. The negligence or fault of the accident has to be proven first before they even talk about punitive damages. And if the carrier or the driver is found innocent of any wrongdoing, there is no punitive stage as there is, currently in most states. Iowa has also adopted this. And so the hope is, typically in this industry, once a couple states do something, the others start to piggyback and get it as well. So they're kind of hoping this will start to mushroom out and start just leveling the playing field. Hey, if somebody's neglect, a company's neglect, they don't want those to get off scot-free. But man, a lot of good, decent carriers are going out of business because of frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah, and you talk about it, and we're actually discussing something called tort reform and tort law and how it applies to the trucking industry and how it's exploded. But I'll tell you, we're creating precedents here in Texas, is what you're talking about, for the judicial system to instigate that legislation necessary to formulate and implement tort reform so that it makes it easier for all of us to understand equity. Look, I don't want carriers out there that aren't doing the right thing either. But at the same time, these huge nuclear verdicts, we all have to understand not one individual pays for that. We all ultimately pay the price tag, whether it be in the form of a rate increase or whether it be in the form of how more money is going to be put into this ideology on getting money out. I mean, these investors are going in, placing money into the advertisement, into the attorneys, and backing them by financially so they can go after these large dollars. It's no longer, it's like stocks.
Yes.
They're just using it like stocks. Hey, this is a great investment. Let me go out here and invest in tort law so that I can get a piece of the action. And if I can offer you $1 million now to help you finance your case, I want a certain percentage of what you win. And then it becomes a battle against, it's nothing equitable about it.
No. And it's working already in Texas, because one of the things that were brought up in the meeting that I attended, and I started paying attention on the television as well, is the Hammer no longer is talking about trucking accidents. He's just talking about accidents in general. He's still out there saying, I'm the Hammer, but he's talking about distracted driving, all motorists. He's not saying, been hitting a big rig, blah, blah, blah. He's focused on all accidents now. And so there's already been a shift in one of the biggest advertisers against trucking accidents here in the state of Texas, just in his way that his commercials are now strung together. So that is a good thing, and the hope is that this will continue to go to just level the playing field. Hey, if you're wrong, you're wrong, but if you're right, man, you don't get punitive or punished by it. And you bring up a great point. Not one person, like you said, insurance raises their rates. Carriers have to raise their rates, right? Customers have to raise the consumer price of the product. I mean, it just trickles down. And then who pays for that? Everybody does.
Everybody pays for
Everybody
that.
does.
Everybody actually pays in those huge punitive damages. And I understand wanting to, and the whole idea behind tort law was to make things right for the person that was injured, right? To reimburse them for what they had lost. Yeah. And I have to me it's really hard to get to that. You lost $1 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that, and I just find that difficult for everybody to lose $1 billion, that's 1,000 million. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be around a long time. If I get 1 million, I'll be yeah. I mean, you know what I mean?
What?
I'll be happy today if I can have 1 million to lose.
Yeah, and the laws are very important, because we did a mock trial at this one seminar I went to, and I was part of the jury, selected to be part of that mock thing, and the accident, there was no neglect by the carrier or the driver, but unfortunately somebody's life was changed forever, not killed. And so we awarded like $3.7 million. Then the lawyers came back and said, this actually happened in some states. Says, well, if they don't get the 20-some million that was asked, they get nothing. And every juror changed their mind. And it's just one of those things that the legal system was like, how does that happen? And the lawyers were up there and said, this is what's wrong with the industry, is some states have this, and I forget what it was called, but it was just like, then they go tell them that, hey, if you don't award this minimum, they get nothing. And I was like, how does that happen?
Wow.
I didn't even know that existed. But so, yeah, the laws need to be reformed, and they're starting. And again, we don't ever want to take away from neglect by carriers. The bad carriers out there, the bad drivers need to be off the road.
Agreed.
And we're going to see some videos where a driver called the police on some today.
Right,
so are we ready for some videos there,
all right,
producer?
let's see what's going on.
This first one, see if you can see what's wrong with this picture. I had to look several times. Did you find it, Dave?
No, I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Did you, producer?
I think the whole problem is that you didn't see it, right? Like the whole reason that this is wrong is because you can't see the cyclists on the side of the road as our truck gets over.
Right there.
Oh, I couldn't see him.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. And I love this video that was sent in by a driver. And it just shows, folks, you cannot let, you think if you're driving fatigued and your eyes are open, but you're just not, all the faculties aren't there, and you drift over, this person loses their life if you're not looking for them. I mean, it's one of the last things you would see on a major highway. It looks like a state highway nonetheless, but still, you would not expect to see somebody on a bicycle riding on the shoulder here, would you?
No, and what's concerning is the bicyclist has that no reflecting and
Yes.
wearing dark clothes in the nighttime. Excuse me, and not making sure that he can be seen. Not a good move here on the bicyclist part.
Great job by this driver, being alert. Hey, here's another great video. Just love where we're changing. This driver's been involved on several of our videos that we've learned from, but look at this. Green light, been watching the videos, making sure that this intersection is absolutely clear to move, and then starts to move at the end of the video. Just tremendous job being safe out there. Has the green light. We're going to make sure, you know, nothing is coming. And then it starts to move there at the end of the video here a little bit. So great job by that driver. Hey, we talked about patience. Man, here's a great one. No way should any driver do this. It's not worth the risk. Look at that. What, maybe 2 inches, 3 inches, Dave, tops? At the bottom there? Whew.
That's crazy.
It is. Just be patient. Find out what's going on. There's no reason for that. I hope this driver didn't follow that truck through there, but just thought it was a great thing. We were talking about patience. Got to be patient with the phrase that pays. Hey, here's another one, man. This is one where, watch this. Almost clips us, then speeds up. This driver called the police, actually followed this vehicle, asked them if they were all right, what was going on, why they did that, and the report is that this vehicle tried to run over him, the driver. So again, just crazy out there. You know, call the police, absolutely. Maybe distance yourself. In this day and age, it's probably not worth the confrontation, but absolutely call the police if you feel warranted. Just dangerous driving by this four-wheeler. Hey, you know, again, we talk about tailgating and quick lane changes. Doesn't look like this freight's secured on the back there, drive safe. Looks like they got a something up there on the back that just could fall off any minute. You get to see it right at the beginning here, but I couldn't see. It looks like the straps are flapping in the wind. I couldn't see that it was actually that last pallet or whatever there sitting there is not secured, was it?
Well, in honestly, I think that's lumber wrapped, and I think it's very, very long, and I think it's just extending outside, sticking outside the tarp. I've pulled lumber like that before.
Oh, you could be.
It's just an elongated box. I do believe it's tarped down, but by the way, that is not a good tarp job for your to have your tarp flapping like that. It'll just tear it up. So I'm not impressed with the tarp job. If you want my professional opinion, and not a good job. So there you go.
And by the straps, you know, one thing I learned from our local DOT officers, and Dave, you can help me if I mess this up because I'm going by memory. But the strapping on these, when you do these flatbed loads, they have to equal 1 every 10 feet. They don't have to be every 10 feet. Like if you have 2 within 5, but inside a 20-foot range, then that's okay. But they have to equal 1 every 10 feet. Is that?
It's more based upon the weight capacity of the load and the weight capacity of the strapping and or chains. The number of straps that you place on the deal is all. It has to really equal the number of the weight of the load itself. There is a requirement that you in the first couple of feet of the load you have to have 2 straps to secure the forward movement. I didn't see that on this load. There's a lot of problems with this load.
Yes.
So I'm not going to go into the load securement with you at this time, but at this juncture. But I can't see under the tarp, right? So so I have to be very careful of making the call on what's going on.
Even that rear strap is flapping.
Yeah,
a little bit when it went through. It no longer has
you'll damage the
content.
Yeah, you'll damage the strap, and you'll do. And,
see, right there, it's just flapping.
Oh yeah. Well, I can't tell if it's flapping or if the tarp underneath it is flapping. So, well, you know, I don't like this load. Not a great job. I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'm not making any calls or what have you. I didn't pull the load, but just as a old former flatbed driver, I wouldn't do this. All right, what you got?
And the next one, you know, again, watch what happens from the four-wheeler. Comes up right there. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Got to squeeze in.
Got to squeeze in.
Man, great job by this driver. You know, even after this happens, the driver starts to back off, lets this pickup in. Great courtesy. And then somebody else is going to squeeze in because they can't be behind a truck. And the driver, instead of getting on him, getting mad, look, he keeps his speed so that the spacing increases right away. Great job. Showing patience, you know, and just calmness there in a potential volatile situation. You know, here, again, coming up to construction, the lane's narrowing, and then you got somebody just flying through there. Got to keep your head on a swivel so that driver can get over and, again, prevents any potential accident there.
Yeah, I think what I like most about this video is the driver actually sees the car coming up on the side really quickly and moves over and hugs that right lane, hugs that right line on the lane to make sure that they're giving them as plenty, because they're not stopping.
No.
Now,
And every one of those videos is exactly why each and every one of you out there has 129 days.
right.
Right? I mean, that is what it takes. It's that patience and that defensive posture. Great, great videos. This was just really encouraging. You know, there just was all kinds of good videos to choose from. We got anybody, callers?
No, you know, we talk about being defensive, and we talk about being better and patient. You know, I think that's key as we looked at these videos. It's important to realize that they're going to continue to make mistakes out there. Mistakes are going to be made by all on the road, right? Every single person. I've made mistakes. You've made mistakes.
Yes.
Dylan has made mistakes. Look, we've got to learn from them. And we've got to understand that they're going to continue to be made. We have to be prepared in those moments to know that mistakes are going to continuously need to be or will be made. Just like the other day when we had yesterday we had the video of the hydroplaning and the car spin out of control. That right there is evidence that in a moment's notice that it will create just a small error in judgment. You know, coming across, it's raining hard, and where the driver was, the cars in front of it were clearing the road a little bit, so it had a little bit of water off of it between the roadway and the tire. But when it moved across the lanes outside that comfort zone and into the open road, and all that water was on it, it instantly created that hydroplane environment. But go ahead, who do we got? 2 callers?
Yeah, we got 2 callers and then a question typed out. So first up, we got Jeff Marsh, then Howard Watford. What do you guys got for us?
What's up, Jeff?
Hey, I wanted to just tell, first of all, that tarp job. I've never pulled a flatbed, and I know that that's a bad tarp job and everything. And the thing is we see it all the time. I mean, at least I do. I see a lot of bad tarp jobs when you got tarps just sitting there flapping in the back and everything, and all that stuff. And the second thing is I wanted to tell Buckle Up Bob that that producer over there did a hell of a good job in the afternoon on a one-man show while you were gone.
Awesome.
Good job. Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Jeff.
That was a call out for you, huh?
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. And Howard Watford, what do you got for us?
Yes, that one with the bicycle, that was early this morning, and I got a little telltale sign because looking further up, the semi, I saw him make a little quick wiggle, so it got my attention to look for something, and then I had to get on the brakes so I could allow that van to get over so I could get over. So
great,
just
nice job, nice paying attention to what's going on.
That semi move helped me.
Yeah, and that, I love that you're saying that, because that's other sign. You know, we talk a lot about signaling the intentions and letting people behind you know hey, there's a problem. You can't let them know what it is, but like Howard said, hey, I seen them do a little wiggle, so I knew something was going on. So now I'm on the lookout even closer. Great job.
And all I could see was a reflector on the pedal. That's it.
Oh,
that's amazing.
Great job.
All right.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, you too,
sir.
All right, and then Tommy Jones just wanted to throw out that a rock loose on landing gear and a trailer is actually an unsecured load. So, Dave, I'm sure as a flatbedder or a former flatbedder, you probably know something about that as well.
Yeah, you know, not just that, but when anything that's located on the tractor trailer, it can be even dunnage. Like we used to sometimes slide our dunnage boards underneath the rail, and if it's not secured under there with a strap, it's not a secured load. So you've got to make sure, and that's what he's talking about. He's talking about when you raise your landing gear, if you allow rocks on that landing gear to remain before you get out there on the road, you have an unsecured load.
Yep.
And you present a danger to the trucking and to the commercial or non-commercial traffic out there on the highway, because those big rocks, some of those rocks are rather large, can get on it, and we're talking about on the feet of the landing gear. They can rest on there as they raise. You got to make sure it doesn't take but a second to brush them off with your foot as you walk around the truck and do your pre-trip. Make sure that you're not carrying anything out there that can fall off and make it dangerous.
Right.
But
That's a terrific point. I've actually seen that in my career, not with BCB, but I've actually seen 2 violations written up because there was pebbles on the shoe of the, what do they call it, sand shoe?
Oh yeah, sand shoe. They, and it's funny that you mentions that. You'll see some flatbedders, and as you'll watch and you'll pay attention, you'll notice that they have to have specific dunnage in order to not allow objects to roll, not allow objects to move on the freight. So they use, different types of devices on there, and they have to secure them to. Not all of it can go in the side box. Not all of it can go in the headache rack or fit in the headache rack. So they have to actually strap them down on the flatbed when it's empty and rolling down the road. You'll see that even tarps, and you'll see them rolled, and you'll see them strapped down. So you'll pay attention. They even secure that. It all has to be secured, and and that goes for anything and everything. Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, we also got Justin Hayes here. What do you got for us, sir?
What's up, Justin?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Dan, what's going on?
So that was my wife that actually got pushed off on that exit. Jeanette was driving. So she followed that lady. That lady ended up getting back on the highway. She took the wrong exit. Jeanette even followed her down to the next exit. Stopped, got out to go talk to her, and the lady tried to run her over with the car. And she took a picture of the license plate and told her, I got a picture of your license plate. I'm calling the police. Police showed up, and actually super nice guy. And they talked to the lady, talked to Jeanette. Even the owner of that little store saw the lady do that too. But anyway, there's a lot of issues with that whole deal. The lady did get a ticket that we do know of for erratic lane change. Driver tech was really awesome. They sent the video to the police for us. He said, depending on the video, she was probably going to get more tickets. The lady was crying, I think, because she got caught. But, Jeanette was nice enough to say, hey, do you mind if I talk to her for a minute? And, she spoke with the lady and said, look, your life isn't worth it. She had a dog in the truck too. And she said, I really want to get home to my grandson. My husband's back here sleeping. She's like, I'm a person too. And you could have really jeopardized us and put us in a ditch. We could have rolled over. You could have hurt yourself. And she actually sat down and talked to the lady. The lady was crying, and, Jeanette told her to have a blessed day and to make better decisions. And, I thought that was admirable of her to talk to her.
Yep.
But when Jeanette got out of the truck, of course, I came out of the sleeper. That's a very dangerous decision. I admire her for doing that, but at the same time, I told her that's, that you don't know people nowadays. People carry guns. People, do stupid things, and calling the cops would have been worth it. Maybe not so much getting out and trying to confront her. But, my wife deals with a lot, and we have a lot of videos.
Yeah.
And she thinks our truck is jinxed, and she got back in the truck and she goes, look, we're going to have to talk about this shift. She's like, I maybe start driving at night and you can drive during the day and deal with the crazies. But, she's become a fantastic driver in the last 4 years. And, I'm really proud of her. But anyway, y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you.
And
Great.
you bring up a great point, and I just want to mention it again before we go to prayer and close. I really don't want you chasing down cars. No. Yeah, I don't want you following cars. I don't want you chasing them down. I don't want you confronting. That's not your role. It's not your job. I don't want you endangered, because we don't know what they're going to do, and we don't know what's going to happen. And I don't want anybody hurt, and I don't want anybody to feel trapped either, because a lot of the times you see how these rundown events end, and you see how these confrontations end, and I don't want anybody out there for any reason to get involved in a situation in which somebody feels either trapped or cornered. Even a rat, when it's cornered, will attack.
Yes.
And so I just want everyone to be safe and be mindful. And if you need involvement with the police, make sure you dial 911 and communicate directly to them and tell them what's going on and what you've encountered. We aren't the police. We don't carry a badge. We carry a CDL, and our job is to move freight from one point to the other, and we do it as safely as possible every single day. Ensure that we know our role right out there, and that we do everything that we can to protect each other and ourselves. And I want each of you to be safe and be careful. Hey, Bob, with that, you want to go ahead and close with a quick prayer, and we will get out of here.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just we thank you for the men and women out there, their wisdom, good decision making. Lord, the technology of these videos to show that they are out there protecting the precious life that you granted each and every one, and everyone has a right to that life, Lord. And we just thank you again for the men and women that are out there on the road every day, every 24/7, every minute. Somebody's out there driving these trucks in dangerous conditions, Lord. And we thank you for the wisdom to allow them to return home to their families. We thank you for those families, Lord, that allow them to, pray for them and to love them and worry about them. It's hard on those families to let their loved ones go each and every day, not knowing if somebody's going to cut them off and maybe end their lives. And so, Lord, again, we thank you for this wisdom. We thank you for each and every one of these men and women. And it's in your Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Hey, everybody, remember, have a great and safe day.
Go USA!
On the right
and Cardinals.
And this is BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.